You can support this podcast at patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia.
This week's Law & Order Marathon winner is Denise Perkins of Virginia Beach, Virginia. Denise will get a marathon decal showing she watched 26.2 hours of her favorite crime show. To be next week's winner, sign up at lawandorderpodcast.com.
I'm Kevin Flynn with Rebecca Lavoie and Brittany Leonigay, and these are their stories.
You think you know who did it, but you don't know who did it. Law and order, law and order, law and order. It's no ordinary police procedural, baby. It's the FNOG of police procedurals, baby. Law and order, law and order, law and order, law and order. These are their stories, these are their stories.
Welcome to These Are Their Stories, the podcast about network TV's most enduring crime franchise and the real-life cases that inspired their shows. I'm Kevin Flynn. Each podcast will break down an episode from either Criminal Intent SVU or Original Recipe. And today we're looking at Special Victims Unit Season 1, Episode 12, Russian Love Poem.
Do you think that there was a reason that the killer sodomized your husband with a banana?
He was allergic to bananas.
Joining me to do that is true crime author and the host of Crime Writers On and Slate's Mom and Dad Are Fighting podcast, Rebecca Lavoie. Hello, Rebecca.
Privyet, Kevin.
Is that Russian for something?
It's like casual hello in Russian. I just learned that on the internet like 2 seconds ago.
It's like Russian for sup.
Pretty much.
Rounding out our panel is our special guest from the D20 Dames podcast. It's Brittany Leonigay.
Leonigay.
It's perfect. You got it. You nailed it. Sounds beautiful. It's not Russian, but what can I do?
You're on an all-female Dungeons & Dragons podcast. So what is the appeal of listening to other people on a podcast play a role-playing game?
That's a great question. So we try to say that it's storytelling powered by D&D. So if you don't know anything about D&D, definitely listen.
Please tell us, because my son plays, and I am like confounded whenever he talks about it. So you just feel free to just tell us. Please tell us.
About D&D?
Yes.
Yeah.
Encapsulize it in 1 minute.
Yeah, it's an ancient game for your son probably. It's probably
80s.
vintage for him. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's making a big comeback, and it's interesting now because you can play with anyone at any time. You don't have to be sitting around a table, in a basement. Your mom's basement is the cliche. But yeah, there's a lot more people getting into it. The female community, the queer community, there's like lots of really cool podcasts you can listen to that are just, people playing D&D, but you can get a lot of cool stories and characters, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Now, what SVU characters do you think would make good D&D characters?
Oh, that's a great question. I think probably Barba would look good in a lot of D&D outfits.
Agreed.
I can see him wielding a weapon.
Wearing a breastplate.
Yeah, definitely a breastplate. Yeah.
See Kragan with a little crown, kind of.
Kragan, who ages backwards, by the way.
Yeah.
This episode is a great
wizard.
example.
Right.
Like, this is season 1, right, that we're talking about?
Yeah.
He legit looks older in this episode than he does like in season 17. It's unbelievable.
Now, Brittany, of all the franchises, which two cops are your favorite detective team?
Favorite Law and Order detective team.
This is tough. I mean, I have to do traditional Benson and Stabler. I will loop through Benson and Stabler seasons over and over again, and I try not to cross the no Stabler threshold, even though I've seen every episode. But there's something about their chemistry that's just... They're both broken in ways. It's just great. They're fantastic.
And do you have a favorite prosecutorial team?
Favorite Law and Order District Attorney Prosecutorial Team.
Oh, yes. I am an Alex Cabot fan forever. And she keeps coming back, which is great. I'm still holding out that she'll just keep returning. They could kill her off and maybe just keep coming back. She's fantastic.
But for real.
I think they actually did that, and she came back.
They did, but real question, like, what the hell else is Stephanie March doing right now that she just can't come back and be on Law and Order?
Right, forever.
She's not making dinner with Bobby Flay.
Like, why do we have this, like, discount Chicago PD dude when we could just have Alex Cabot back? I'm sorry, Stephanie March, if you're listening to this, which I'm 100% sure you're not, what else are you doing that you can't just come back to SVU right now? Because that would be so amazing.
And she comes back, like, flawlessly. Like, she rolls right back into it. She's in the character. It seems like she's taking some kind of class where she's, keeping her SVU-ness up while she's not on the show. So she might as well just be on the show.
Yeah, I think she's taking professional development credits, like continuing education credits to keep up her character.
In being Cabot?
Yeah. All right, now let's take a look at the first half of this episode, SVU Season 1, Episode 12, Russian Love Poem. Rich mom and daughter enter their quiet home to find dad dead, wearing a leather bondage suit, and yes, a banana shoved up his ass.
Yeah, whoever, whatever. They still didn't have to shove a banana where the sun don't shine. That's just rude. I'm just saying it was disrespectful, not homicidal.
Pretty symbolic.
I'll say.
No, I know where John's going with this. Whoever inserted the banana
Knew that Harlan was allergic.
she might not have meant to have killed him.
I mean, it's pretty hard to get an allergic reaction out of a dead man.
Andrew Harlan's wife says her husband fucked everything with a pulse, male or female. SVU detectives track down all of Harlan's lovers, including a bi-curious ship captain, a free-love blonde sleeping with both dad and son, and a male porn star named Bulldozer. A fingerprint at the crime scene points them to Sonia Petrovich, a Russian nightclub singer and high-priced prostitute who gives a fake story about being in Harlan's house. Documents show Harlan was suing a different Russian prostitute named Katya for $2 million to recoup the costs of making her a kept woman. Munch takes a call from a panicked Sonia. She spoke perfect English, but when her life is in danger, apparently she can only speak Russian.
Right.
Munch and Cassidy find bloody footprints leading away from her apartment where Sonia and her aunt have been killed with an axe. Okay, so poor Mr. Harlan, who thought, I ain't going to fall for no banana in the tailpipe. But he does. The wife's reaction is priceless.
It's my favorite part of this entire
episode. He was allergic to fruit.
Her reaction was just like, I've expected this. She's been waiting for this moment. Like their entire marriage, I assume.
Andrew, are you home? Are you out pouring? Mommy, please. Daddy? Oh, God. No! Daddy!
Her face is so expectant.
I knew I would come home someday and find him wrapped up like a latex turkey.
Yes.
Just bound there.
Well, that's the thing. When you're walking in your house with your teenage daughter, wondering if dad's home, and what you scream out into your 4-level home New York hallway is, are you out whoring? This is not what we'd call a regular family, right?
No. But I have to say this. We're season 1, episode 12. We're a dozen episodes into what surprisingly at this point will be one of the longest running TV shows of all time. And NBC, which just refused to call it by the original name, Sex Crimes, realizes that this 10 o'clock show now features a plot line where a guy has been buggered by fruit.
That's right.
So little did they know what a great hit they were having on their hands here.
That's right.
This episode's pretty progressive, actually. I was thinking that the whole bisexual, pansexual father, that's pretty, even nowadays, people are like, I don't know about that. I was very surprised that this was 99 and they were just so cavalier, just, oh yeah, many lovers of all sexes and
he was polymorphously perverse, as his wife said.
To be exact.
Which I don't know if she listens to the Savage Love cast, but that seems like something Dan Savage would say.
Yeah, watch out for your plants, apparently. But this is, one of the reasons why I like season 1 in particular of SVU.
It's not because of Mariska's amazing season 1 Bob?
No.
Pre-shorn,
that's great
pixie
too.
cut, post-ER long hair.
Yeah,
straight up Bob. No contouring, by the way. This is pre-contouring.
Okay.
So natural.
Right.
So natural.
All the women in this episode,
gorgeous.
I just kept looking at it and thinking, what's missing from these women? I know. Fake cheekbones drawn on by brown makeup. That's what's missing.
Okay. Well, actually, that isn't where I was going. I think if anybody who's written about SVU season 1, they say it stands apart from the rest of the series because it was a different set of writers and they were going for a different kind of theme, and it was supposed to be a little
grittier,
but also
more NYPD Blue,
but also a little higher brow. Not higher brow, but they were trying to be socially relevant in a certain way. Not from this episode.
No.
However,
No.
However, it does have a bit of a different feel. Like you noticed in season 1, there's all these extras who sit around like listening in.
Like Mustache Guy?
Yeah, like Mustache Guy.
Who randomly had like a line, and the
yes.
other guy who randomly had a line. I'm like, who are these people?
Yeah.
That happens all through season 1, and there's no explanation for it, and it never happens again. It's so fascinating. They just throw them in, and they're always sitting on desks or just like their chair is turned around and they just turn their head. Like they're all just like auxiliary police officers.
They're in the middle of doing something else, but they have to listen in on this case.
Right.
And then they get up like, oh, I'm going to go do something about that.
No, but it's supposed to be like they're part of the unit, but we're just not focusing on them.
Right.
And then in later seasons, this very elite, very important squad is only 5 people.
Right.
Like we're supposed to believe that.
Right.
And we're fine with that. They're taking all the cases. It's fine.
Right.
It makes sense mathematically.
And then they have this stairway loft that goes up.
Nowhere? Goes to nowhere.
I think it's where they have all the mysterious books.
Yes. Books about sex crimes.
Yeah.
And Jeffries is always up there studying something.
It comes down after doing her research.
Yes.
She's always doing research up there, always. And she always has, well, in this episode, she has the one piece of information that turns it completely around, which is they found a fingerprint
fingerprint
in the house. That's it. That's the only thing that leads them to these Russian people.
And she can only deliver that message in a leotard. It's literally the only thing she ever wears.
And a vest. But she had to descend the stairs, like, oh, she's coming down the stairs and like, I have this information that was imparted to me on the second floor loft.
Okay, as long as we're talking about weird aesthetics in season 1.
Yeah.
Can we please talk about when Benson and Stabler go to talk to the son, who plays this weird auxiliary role and like doesn't ever appear again?
Were you and your father close?
Yeah, very close. Until he started doing my girlfriends.
And Benson and Stabler are standing so close together that she has to put her shoulder behind his shoulder while they're talking to the dude. It's super weird. Is this back in the day when TVs were just shaped like squares?
Yeah, it was 4x3. It wasn't. Yes.
Yeah. You have to cut off some chunks of the screen to really understand. Then it puts it all in balance.
All right. I love that the porn star had his name legally changed to Bulldozer.
Yeah.
It's 2 words like meatloaf. Yeah,
Right,
Mr.
Mr.
Dozer.
He wasn't a porn star. He was a banana commercial star.
Who aspired to be a porn.
He was born to do porn.
Really in porn?
No, not yet, but soon. Very soon. I just do these cheesy commercials for the money, but I was born to be in porn. And I'm still looking for a good porn talent agent if you happen to know of anyone.
I think that's the only dated part, really truly dated part of this episode, is that there were people around that were aspiring to be a porn star and walked around like that. I feel like there's other things you can do in your life now. You can be a YouTube star. There's all these other outlets for people like that, but no, it was still like porn, like VHS porn star. That's what he wanted, and he was gonna get it. Like, that's the only part I was like,
Why are you ragging on his dream, though, Brittany? I mean,
no, it sounds awesome. I just think that if he were here now, he would have a million subscribers on YouTube as, the Dozer.
Well, we also had like sexy painter Becky Sorensen carrying around her like fake Georgia O'Keeffe painting, which was just a vagina.
yes.
Very suggestive. And they made sure to show you that as if we hadn't had enough sexually explicit things in this episode.
I'm so into sex, I even paint about it.
That's right.
You lead me into the next point I want to make is that we have an army of Hey, It's That girls.
Oh, we do.
Hey, it's that girl.
So who plays the wife of the victim? Her name is Christina Harlan. Anyone know the actress?
Oh, this one I recognize. He used to deliver pizza to us until then he just kind of delivered.
No, but I know who she, I know she's been other things. As soon as she walked on the screen, I was like, oh, it's that girl.
Yeah.
Who is she?
That's the whole point of the bit.
Yes, I know.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so who is she?
Her name is Deborah Rush.
Yeah.
She plays Piper's mom in Orange is the New Black.
Oh, okay.
And she's also married to Chip Cronkite, who is the son of Walter Cronkite.
Well, nobody knows who Chip Cronkite is.
It's just, Brittany, I'm just trying to impart some facts here. Can you back me up that was interesting?
That's a fun fact. I'm trying to figure out ages there. Like Walter Cronkite's son, and then she's probably old. Yeah, I don't know.
All right.
I just got math.
Just so you know, I'm turning my microphone away from Rebecca so I can talk directly to you, Brittany.
Perfect.
Could you give me the name of the actress who plays their daughter, Emily?
Oh, no, I can't. But I had that moment. Of this bit.
Yeah, okay. Well, her name is Allison Munn.
Yeah.
And she played Lauren on One Tree Hill.
Daddy said that if anything ever happened to him, he kept all of his personal stuff in the secret drawer in his desk, and he told me where he hid the keys.
Oh.
And also Tina in What I Like About You.
No, One Tree Hill has recognized her from, for sure.
She's not blonde, though, in that, I think.
This part was stupid in the show. Like, I loved my daddy, even though he was a pervert and we all knew it. And I hated my mom for saying that daddy was a pervert. Made no sense. My daddy told me about his secret drawer where all of his private stuff was, just in case anything ever happened to him. Look what I found there.
As she twirls her hair, it's some legal mumbo jumbo. I don't know. Maybe you can make some sense out of it.
Was this during the writer's strike, this episode?
No. No. Okay, about let's talk again about Becky, who was the oil painting paramour.
Yep.
I think you're thinking about this the wrong way.
How so?
Andrew wasn't into monogamy, not even serial monogamy.
Anyone know the actress's name?
Nope.
Okay, that's Melissa Sage Miller.
Mm-hmm.
And she will return to SVU in season 12 to play ADA Jillian Hardwick.
Oh my God, that super short-lived, like, light redhead ADA.
Yeah.
In the year, and like in that sort of era where like everyone had red hair and they kept getting their throats cut by Russians. I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah, right. Okay, well, she was part of that 3-season spiral of ADAs coming in and out.
Yeah.
They included Christine Lottie,
Mhm.
Sharon Stone.
Got her throat cut by Russians, by the way.
Harry Connick Jr. And her character, Hardwick, came in immediately following one episode, ADA Mika Vaughn.
Paula Patton.
Yes, exactly. Yep. Yeah. So why do we think there were so many like misfires between Cabot and Barba?
I honestly think the show could not find its footing with like a lawyer that mattered. You know what I mean? So I do think that like in Law and Order Original Recipe, it was like they had Jack McCoy and whoever like the lady was Jack McCoy. And they knew that like who the lawyer was mattered. They figured that out. And on this show, it was like they kind of started off that way. But then there was, here's the thing I've always wondered, like if they have an actress who's like so terrible that she's only in like 3 episodes or whatever, why not just redo those scenes with the one that you ended up with like later in the season? It's very strange to me, that sort of revolving door.
Yeah, I think that the ADA thing takes time. You kind of have to seed it, you know, and you can't just say like, let's try 3 episodes and let's see. It needs like, they don't get as much backstory, so you don't learn about them. You don't have feelings for them. But if you give them, 6, 7, 8 episodes, then you start feeling. So if you don't invest in them,
right,
then you're not going to get a long running ADA. I wasn't convinced Barba was going to be on for that long either.
Me neither.
But then he grows on you,
He does.
and then you're like, don't ever leave, and then he breaks your heart. So,
More suspenders, please. More Paisley suspenders.
This episode kind of bounces around quite a bit. It keeps moving from scene to scene, and I think it's kind of hard to keep track. I don't know. I had a hard time kind of keeping track of where we're going and what's important.
It's a tour of New York City. We've got several scenes that take place in different parts of Brighton Beach, which, by the way,
I learned a lot about Brighton Beach.
So did
A
I.
lot.
Apparently, there's a boardwalk that looks just like Coney Island, and there are like Russian cafes along that boardwalk.
Mhm.
There's the whole bathhouse situation, which is that in part 1 or part 2?
That's part 1.
But there's the whole like going to like all these Upper East Side locations, and then there's a lot of just locations.
So the trail brings them to like the most ridiculous Turkish bath in New York.
Russian.
It's a Russian Turkish bath, right? Isn't that something?
Yes.
It's a hybrid job.
I understand if you don't want to strip, but you must take off your shoes.
Why do they need to walk around in flip-flops?
Why do they need to go in
Why did
at
they need
all?
to walk in? Yes.
At all.
Why did they need to go in at all? There was no reason. Other than the desk guy was my favorite character of this whole episode. I thought he was fantastic. I thought he was a great actor. I don't know what he has been doing with his life. I don't know why he grew his hair out like that, but I thought he was great. I thought he had a great scene. He really milked it. But man, what? Just so they could see the guy in the tub with the ladies?
Right.
Yes.
That's the reason.
But then they also have like a world-famous violin player come jacuzzi side.
For no reason.
And play for this Russian oligarch bathing with 2 girls.
And by the way, we've already determined that Munch randomly speaks Russian.
Yeah.
Why is he not going with them to all these places?
That's a good
well,
point.
He only speaks a little Russian, but then can translate for everyone
That's
for
right.
the rest of the episode. So
Yeah, he doesn't speak bathhouse Russian. Look, I hate it when they come and play the violin next to my table in a restaurant.
Me
I
too.
sure don't want them playing while I'm soaking in the tub with 2 honeys.
I also have something else that I have a bone to pick with in this episode.
Yeah.
if I get murdered because I've been asphyxiated and someone sticks a banana up my butt, do me a favor and wait longer than like 2 days before you start redecorating the entire house, please.
Because you think the wife's a little weird. Let's talk about the family then, okay? And let's look at them as suspects for a second. You've got the son, and his alibi is that his mom, and I'm not making this up.
She drove me to a poetry convention.
Drove him to a poetry convention. The girl who plays Dungeons and Dragons laughed at that.
It's embarrassing, but he said it so proudly and so like, obviously that's what I was doing. Why'd you even ask me that? I'm an intellectual. Like, he's so proud of it, which is worse.
An intellectual with a weird like puka, like shark tooth necklace. It was super weird. Like he did not read
They didn't nail down his character.
They did not.
They didn't know what they were doing. They were just like, throw a son in there, which they didn't even say that they had until he went to go see him. It was so strange. This whole family dynamic is very odd.
Right, and then Benson and Stabler grill the wife about this lawsuit, and she claims there's this epidemic of rich New York men leaving their wives for Russian prostitutes.
That's right.
They're ruining everybody's marriage. You never heard of the ultra Natashas? Well, they all ought to be called Katya. And what? I'm supposed to become one of those pathetic divorcees who has to say, and how old is your Russian?
They are stealing all the husbands. They're
It's all
everywhere.
her friends talk about. Yeah, it's the talk of the town. It's what she talks about at Bridge Club. It's just who's the Russian whore that you know.
I don't remember seeing this in the social pages.
I have to say, it's sort of like the current scandal with like Russiagate. You know, like every time you turn on like CNN or whatever, it's like, they're everywhere, the Russians. This wife, she's like, they're everywhere. She literally says that.
Yeah,
and I'm
she
like,
knew.
you're pointing at the wrong thing, lady. I don't actually think they're trying to steal your husband. I think they're just trying to influence like the 2002 election or something. The midterms.
This is all a distraction. Your thing is just the fun stuff. They have a bigger agenda.
Yeah, it was a long game, wasn't it? It was.
Exactly.
Of course, each time they question one of these Russian women, they wax poetic about being a prostitute.
I'm with men who are breaking promises to their wives, and that excites them and makes them come alive again. I make them come alive again. I am their freedom, and that is delicious.
Who knew you had to be such a philosopher to be a hooker?
We get this whole thing in this episode, and this is what's weird to me. All of the cultural Russian stuff is bananas, considering that like in every other Law and Order episode that involves Russians, somebody gets their throat cut, right? And in this episode, we have like 2 axe murder victims that we get to see. And by the way, I'm thinking like, why is SVU investigating this crime? This is a murder.
Because of the banana.
Not an axe, not a
Banana,
sex
because
crime.
of that banana, it's
and
the
then
whole
at one
thing.
point in the episode, Mariska even says like, I investigate murders. I'm like, no, you don't. You're a sex crimes cop. Like, did you forget what your job title is?
You go after rapists, not murderers.
Anyway, there's this whole like waxing poetic about like Russians who use sex as currency, and prostitution is like a coveted profession because, you know, the value of love and sex. And it's just like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about?
That's what the bathhouse guy said at the he said, you know, here prostitutes are, you know, terrible people and you want to stay away from them. But in Russia, in Russia, they're at the top of the social chain. It's like, all right, let's go. Let's go to Russia. It sounds awesome. Russia sounds awesome, man. The way you're describing Russia right now sounds great.
Who was that comedian in the 80s who was always like,
Yakov Smirnoff?
In Russia.
In Russia, prostitutes pay you.
Can we just talk for a second about Munch's 4-second phone call?
Da. Tiše, Davushka, tiše. Мы будем скоро. Мы будем скоро. Da.
There's definitely a trope on Law and Order of phone calls taking like
4 seconds.
4 seconds. Bang
and
on the
then
phone.
getting way too much information for it to be 4 seconds.
Right.
Apparently in 4 seconds, Munch learned that Sonia was super scared and she was at her apartment and blah, 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 blah. Maybe an axe murder outside the door. Hangs up the phone, they go there, and it's a murder scene. That phone call was way too short for all that information.
Yeah, Brittany, I mean, for a woman who was able to give this great soliloquy about the benefits of being a prostitute in English,
right?
Now her life is in danger, and she can't find 2 words to put together. She has to resort to Russian. Of course, she's dialing directly into the unit, right? It's not 911.
Right. That's why they report to that scene, because she calls SVU. So they tie that little hole up, I suppose. But I take more issue with the fact that Cragen asks if Munch, or says that Munch speaks a little Russian, and then Munch speaks all the Russian.
That's right.
Apparently,
That's right.
Every word, understands everything anyone's saying, can translate anything at all.
У нее было несколько катаносов, а у меня есть фотография.
Yeah, she had a few, and he has a picture.
Они все такие красивые.
Like her, they all look like models and talented like her. And
Это вот Катя, самая близкая ее
her friend
подруга.
Katya.
Okay, but we'll put that aside. The other part of this whole phone call thing is that apparently it took them hours to get there because by the time they got there, an old lady was cleaning up the stairs already.
In like a babushka.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the odd thing was that she started cleaning like the footsteps farthest away, had the
Right.
least amount of blood.
And they weren't even like
I would have done the
chastising her.
messier footsteps
Where are the
first.
scene of crime people? Where are they?
Right. And I don't understand why they even put her in that scene, because it wasn't like they were later going to say, well, if that woman hadn't corrupted the crime scene, we could have gotten this and that. No, there was none of that. There was no reason to have that woman there cleaning up the footprints other than to have me upset that they took so long.
I think it was because they wanted to show an old lady wearing a kerchief scrubbing.
Right,
like,
they were checking
like,
off
oh, this
some
is really
boxes.
Russian
It's
here.
very.
yeah.
All we had.
Right.
The only thing missing was like a bunch of dolls living inside one another.
Right.
All right, now let's take a look at the second half of this episode. A distraught Russian man named Alex walks into SVU to confess to Harlan's murder, jealous of his relationship with Katya. But he screws up the details of the crime, so Stabler and Benson cut him loose. They finally track down Katya, a high-end prostitute who is just way too cool for school.
If you're not at our office by 9 a.m., immigration will be at your house by 9:05. That I can personally guarantee you.
This is America. You can't do this.
Sweetheart, let me let you in on a little secret. Cops are the same everywhere.
Okay, but could we make it noon? I'm not what you call a morning person. I don't even know if I'll be home by 9.
And only has one button on her shirt.
That's right. Katya's hitting on Stabler, leaving a trail just like a snail.
Ew.
She admits that she and Sonia went to Harlan's house to tease him. They tied him up and pegged him with a banana to tease him, but she swears she didn't kill him. The detectives talk to Sonia's boss and her uncle, who only speaks English when he's drunk. They both believe Alex killed Sonia because... nobody freaking knows at this point.
Yeah, nobody knows.
Nope.
Katya agrees to wear a wire and a sting with Alex, but it goes wrong, and he is cornered by the cops. Alex takes out all the bullets of the revolver except for one and spins the cliche. I mean, he spins the chamber. As he
Wait, in Russia, they just call that roulette.
They just call it roulette. As he repeatedly dry fires the weapon into his chest, he explains that he brought Katya to America, but she broke up with him. He strangled Harlan because he was jealous and chopped up Sonia because they needed something big for the end of Act 2 before the commercial break. And then, of course, he shoots himself right at the end, proclaiming, "See how lucky I am?
Yeah.
Nothing can hurt me, not even this gun." Of course we knew he was dead right
That's
there.
right. That's right.
All right, so they tell you that you're in the Russian part of Brighton Beach because we go from the Moscow restaurant to the Moscow Cafe.
Yes.
That's apparently all America would know
And
about
apparently
Russia.
Russians, totally call bullshit on this, drink horseradish flavored vodka. Bullshit. They just drink vodka. Everyone knows flavored vodka was made for Americans, and Russians do not like flavor in that shit. Even I know that.
Brittany, did you get the sense that, yeah, this is really Russian, this neighborhood?
Oh yeah, I mean, aside from the terrible Russian accents that were just littering my ears the entire time, I just assumed everything was Russian. I thought the police station turned Russian in this whole episode. Just they just put a skin on this whole episode. Russia.
Everyone's smoking when they're not supposed to be. Like every Russian character has to be told that you're not allowed to smoke here all the time.
Okay,
That's
sorry. Or not. Yeah. Now, Alex comes in and he makes this big show of his fake confession.
Why?
Well, I think he's trying to throw them off the track by intentionally giving them a bad... No? Well, I don't know. Well, I mean, why are you asking me why?
Well, here's my question. It was just stupid, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It was stupid. but not as bad as this. When he's told about Sonia's murder, he goes...
No! No! How tragic!
How tragic!
Kind of like when Katya is told about it, she's like, yes, I heard about that.
Now, do you think this character, Alex, was tipping his hand, or was this just really bad acting?
I thought I was confused. I assumed he he had been involved in both crimes. So I was not sure why he was saying that he had done one but not the other. And then I was basically on his side because I was so confused. He basically did exactly what he was probably trying to do, is confuse the hell out of everyone, because I had no idea where this was going and why he even showed up. So
this guy can barely speak English. He's a discount Hugh Jackman of like the greatest degree. No, it was like they changed. I think this is what I believe, that they like just sort of rewrote it and changed something, and they already had that scene. It felt very disjointed. The whole thing felt like an editing mess that was cobbled together to me.
So I don't know what the Russian translation for femme fatale is, but I think it's Katya.
Is it?
She is, right? I mean, isn't she
it's
like
faux femme fatale?
Faux femme fatale.
It's like so ham-fisted.
What's your take on her?
It is the most poorly written character I've ever seen on television. Like, they're like, can you come in at 9? She's like, I do noon. I'm not what you call a morning person. Please. Please.
Well, I was confused the whole time. Again, confused this episode, but she was mentioned the entire time. And so I'm ready for the most, illustrious, just really vibrant character. And then it's her. And I was just so let down by her character in general, because they built me up. Like she didn't come in until like the third to last scene. And that was it. Like, that's Katya this whole time. Everyone's talking about the famous Katya, and that's who it is. I want Sonia. Bring Sonia back.
You can't. She's dead.
She's so dead, but more interesting.
There's one thing I loved about Katya.
What?
Girl knew her damn rights.
Am I under arrest?
Not yet.
Oh, then I think I say no. I'm all dressed up.
She knew her rights.
Right? Like they went to that party or whatever that she was at with her French twist, and they were like, you should come with us. She's like, I don't have to do that. I am not under arrest. I'm like, you know your damn rights, lady. No one on this show ever knows their rights. I was very impressed by that, and that's where it ended.
And that's where it ended.
Because she literally only knew how to do one button on her shirt, and that was very disappointing.
But I guess this is probably the one and only time like a female suspect throws herself at Stabler.
You want to make love to me?
Tell you what, why don't you just start answering my questions, okay?
Only if you answer mine first, huh?
And what's that gonna cost me?
Oh, I am too expensive for your detective salary. And I don't take money.
No, you just take husbands.
It's legit one of about 1 million times where that happens.
Right.
She's like grinding on him and everything, just about.
Yeah, we've seen in the last, I think, week, watching SVU episodes in the kitchen, so many episodes of the female suspect is coming on, like, so you must be an animal in bed. And he just like looks at them, and you're just like, Stabler has the amazing ability to not get a boner at work because it just never happens. He always gives him that look like, come on, please, come on.
So I don't think he can get a boner at home either. So,
have you seen how many kids he has? I think he can.
Well, he has 4 or 5 times apparently in his life.
That's what this episode didn't have, by the way, Stabler family life, which season 1 is riddled with. And I was really upset that there is no, like, somehow this Russian thing tied into something like Little Dickie's soccer game. You know, they always tied, Kathleen's having a hard time at school. You know, they always try to tie in this terrible sex crime to what's happening in his house just for season 1 and 2, basically.
Yeah, that's the problem. You're right. It's like, oh, yeah, here's a murder. It's like, oh, my family. Someone's killed. Oh, my family.
No, like,
it's like, oh, someone had a banana. Oh, my. Well, okay, no one in my life.
Dickie had a banana for breakfast.
Yeah, I'm scared. So they have Katya do this sting, right? She goes to Alex while wearing a microphone attached
but doesn't
to her
button
bra.
any more buttons in her shirt.
Right, she's still wearing the
it
blouse
literally
with one
sticks
button.
out the whole time.
Which maybe could be why the operation didn't go very well. Maybe.
Well, yeah. It could be. There's another reason why maybe it didn't go very well. They have the microphone on Katya with her one button. They go to this like Russian place where they think a guy killed 2 people with an axe plus strangled somebody and shoved a banana up his butt. They get her to get him to say what he did. They're sitting in a van, and then they say, let's call for backup.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you guys not know how an operation works? Like,
we forgot a thing.
Supposed to be there. Jesus, Benson and Stabler.
Oh my God, this actually works. What are we going to do now?
Also, relying on Munch again, who only speaks a little Russian, to be the sole translator for this sting operation. Not getting in a single professional who could have actually told you what they were saying. Instead, Munch was like, I don't know. Sounds like, we better get in there. It sounds bad. Call backup. Like, could have gone so much better.
Benson says to Katya, the sex cop, the sex crimes cop who's supposed to be super empathetic to like women in like downtrodden situations, who legitimately was defending prostitutes earlier in the episodes. She says to Katya,
Who are you? Some sex machine with a cash register between her legs?
Between your legs, yeah.
you think this is good judgment these cops are showing?
Brittany, she's slut shaming. Exactly. I mean, it's Olivia Benson slut shaming.
It's, again, I have to chalk up some of this stuff to season 1, footing issues, because they would have never. Totally uncharacteristic.
Now, at the end of the episode, they have Benson and Stabler.
I'm sorry, I can't even with this.
You can't even, huh?
Yeah.
They walk away with this really cheesy voiceover conversation about,
What a mess.
Blowing people's heads off because of some vodka-induced third-rate notion of tragedy.
That's a lot of crap. And for this, they come to America.
It wasn't supposed to be voiceover. We were supposed to believe it was them actually talking,
right?
Walking down the Brighton Beach boardwalk.
Sunset, yeah.
But it was certainly an afterthought, right?
No, that would have never happened in any other season. That whole episode would have ended with Katya kind of walking back with her, mic wiretap exposed, and then it's just blackout. Like, I thought it was going to fade out there and end, and was so shocked that they came back on Brighton Beach, unless they wanted us to remember that they were on Brighton Beach. I wonder if this episode was sponsored by Brighton Beach.
Right.
I don't understand.
The Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, I just figured out what could have actually made that last scene better. Is they're like walking away. The guy with the violin from the Turkish bath could have been
Russian
playing.
bath.
No, it says Turkish bath.
It doesn't matter. There were all Russians in there.
All right, let's take a look at the real-life story that inspired this episode. It's time for Ripped from the Headlines.
You think you know who did it. You think you know who did it. But you don't know who did it. You don't know who did it. Ripped from the headlines.
The key to the plotline of this episode is the Russian mob and its practices of human trafficking. While crime gangs existed in Russia since the time of the Tsars, organised crime flourished under communism in the Soviet Union. Political prisoners who had been allies in the gulags formed their own mafia, operating a thriving black market at odds with the oppressive government. Russian criminals would later set up shop in over 50 countries. In America, Russian mob activity was concentrated in Brooklyn in a section called Little Odessa. Like their Italian counterparts, Russian gangsters dabbled in illegal gambling, protection rackets, drug trafficking and prostitution. The Russian gangs who kidnap women for sex are often small, making it hard for law enforcement to disrupt them. They sell the women to larger gangs for use in brothels, casinos and restaurants. The FBI says there are 6,000 women from the former Soviet Union working as prostitutes in the United States. Law enforcement officials in Moscow say there's no evidence criminals of Russian descent are operating internationally. However, many watchdog agencies say mafia corruption is rampant in the Russian government, and in the past, several ministers have been implicated in human trafficking rings.
All right, I'm a bit disappointed that the Rip from the Headlines story wasn't about the epidemic of rich New York men who left their wives for Russian hookers in the late 1990s.
Or rich New York men getting bananas shoved up their butt when they got murdered.
I didn't think that happened as
much.
much.
Did he die from an allergic reaction or strangulation? Was that ever
Strangulation.
cleared up?
Yeah, he was strangled.
But yet Sonia knew and Katya knew he was allergic to bananas.
Right, but said if that's why he died, it was a simple mistake. What? Wow. But you knew, and you thought this will be funny. That for all the law she knows, that can't hold up in court.
Yeah, what was the teasing? How is that teasing?
To tie you up and not do anything for you? It's leaving there? I mean, the guy might have
leaving him there
liked
for his
fruit,
family to find.
Yeah, exactly.
But what's weird about the disconnect between this episode and what Cy Frater just said is that these women, over and over and over again, we hear in this episode that they're not being trafficked. It is their romantic choice.
Right. And so, which is the only mob connection this episode has, because it does not have gambling or any drug trade. It's nothing other than prostitution, but they've said that the prostitution part is just, no, it's not that bad. This is their life's calling.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's just a very bad interpretation of whatever, Russian culture there is in New York, and apparently it's in Brooklyn. Is that where Brighton Beach? I don't know.
Yes.
I feel like I need a map.
It is.
Yeah, well, apparently there's that one block where everything is named Moscow.
Yes.
And that's how you know you're in Little Russia. Yeah.
Yeah, but regarding prostitution, even more so today, we see a great many girls in the U.S. are from Eastern Europe, the former Soviet bloc, and it's in part because that's where their economic options are limited, and the government is indifferent to their recruitment, or let's face it, their kidnapping and indentured servitude.
You mean sex trafficking?
Yes.
Human trafficking.
Yes.
Yes.
But I think that's probably why it's so hard, to get a handle on the international trade, is because we're doing what we can in the U.S., but internationally, they're creating the supply.
Well, I think that if there was no demand, there would be no supply. We know that, right? But again, this episode falls short. Like, we don't actually see that. We don't see women who are unable to talk about what they're doing and where they're going. This episode, if that's what they're trying to do, it falls incredibly short because we see Sonia, who sings at a club and also works at a different club and also cleans people's houses and also hangs out with her friends. It's like a brotherhood of women who like to have sex and also do it for money. Like, there's none of that sort of like, you're doing this because you don't have any other choice. They say that in the SVU squad room, but none of the women in this episode actually, like, that isn't actually what's going on. It really falls flat.
Brittany, are you with Rebecca that this isn't an accurate depiction of Russian prostitution?
Well, I am a scholar on such things, so I can agree. I can agree that, but I was thrown off by the fact that they all had other gigs, right? Like they were, singer by day and night, and spa massage person by day. Like they all seemed to just be living. They kept showing photos of them just like hanging out and just like wearing like the latest clothes and they just looked like, 20-year-old Americans.
Yeah, they were like millennials living the gig lifestyle.
Yeah.
It was like the gig economy of 99. Yeah, exactly.
Before
exactly.
Uber, they had.
Right. It's like, I got a gig. Let me go to that gig. Someone needs a massage right now. Let me swipe that on my app and let's go. But also, if you want to have sex with me for money, yep, I'll do that too.
But I'll also enjoy it. Unless, by the way, I'll enjoy it unless, and I love the threesomes, unless it is 2 guys, 1 girl. That I will not do. That's what we call the devil's triad, right?
2 dudes, yes, exactly.
Yeah, very specific about the won'ts there.
I'm not lesbian, she says.
Okay, well, look, more than prostitution, the number one kind of human trafficking in Russia is forced labor of men and children for things like factories and mines.
That's really depressing. Why are you bringing that up right now?
Well, because we associate human trafficking with just prostitution.
No, I don't. I mean, human trafficking is also about like having a cleaning person who lives at your house. It's also about you can be in the suburbs, and if there's just a person that seems to live with that family that seems to do a lot of the work there, they could be a victim of human trafficking, right?
Brittany, I want you to know we don't have a Russian slave maid in our house, in case Rebecca was starting to intimate that.
I'm just taking notes here.
Our kitchen would be cleaner if we did, by the way.
Now, Rebecca, we have our own children enslaved in producing our podcast. How is this any different?
I pay them, A, and B, they also get a place to sleep that is not a closet under the stairs. So it's not the same at all.
Okay, you say that. That is going to do it for us. We want to thank our guest, Brittany Leonigay. How can our listeners follow you online, Brittany?
You can find me on Twitter at Brittany Lee. That's BrittniLeigh, all spelled very weird. And you can also follow D20 Dames on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. And yeah, check that out if you want some ladies playing D&D.
And Rebecca Lavoie, how can our listeners follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Reb Lavoie. And of course, you can always listen to our other podcast, Crime Writers On.
And you can track me on Twitter at Kevin P. Flynn. You can also tweet to us at Law & Order Pod, or follow us on Instagram at These Are Their Stories Podcast. Our newsreader was Cy Frater. Our theme music was composed and performed by Uncanny Valleys. Content assistance from Travis Roy. Lily Flynn handles promotions. And we welcome back to the podcast factory Henry Lavoie from his recent assignment in Washington. To get ad-free episodes of These Are Their Stories a week early, sign up for Stitcher Premium. Get your first month free at stitcherpremium.com/crime. All clips in this podcast were used in compliance with the U.S. Copyrights Act fair use exemption for criticism and commentary. Special thanks to the elite squad of the Law & Order Wiki community for preserving the evidence. If you want to know what episodes we're talking about in our upcoming shows, go to lawandorderpodcast.com. Sign up for our newsletter for a chance to be our next Law & Order Marathon winner. These Are Their Stories was recorded in the Yoga Loft above the Bodega in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi studio and is a production of Partners in Crime Media.
Partners in Crime Media.